Welcome back to another episode of Global Card Collectors. Today, I have on one of my closest friends in the hobby that I've made over the past 2 to 3 years, Nathaniel. You could not find him on Instagram. If you want to get in touch with him, message me and I'll connect you guys. But he is a wealth of information about basketball cards in particular. He really is strictly a basketball card collector. And although we all dabble, of course, in other areas. And he's taught me so much. Really, he's opinionated, which is great. And so I'm really happy to have him on and to share his collection. So welcome to Global Card Collectors, Nathaniel.
Thanks, John. It's great to be here. Excited to talk about my cards and nerd out about it a little bit.
Yes, we will definitely nerd out. I can promise the audience that. And I mean, give me your origin story to kick us off. When did you get into cards? Did you take a break? Kind of almost doesn't seem like it to me, but go ahead.
Yeah. No, I kind of have the same boring story as everybody. Like I got into it. I was like a 10-year-old in the early 90s but I think what makes me a little bit different is I grew up in Illinois and then we ended up moving to Idaho about when the Bulls started winning all those championships. But because of that, I never really had a phase of baseball cards or football cards. I from the very beginning loved basketball, and then my team was the Bulls, and they were awesome. So I directly shot that into my veins as a 10-year-old and and was straight basketball card collector from that point. But I had the same, like probably around when I look at my old cards, I think around 2001, maybe 2000. That was about when I stopped. And then I didn't really get back into it until COVID. So there was a good, you know, 20 years there that I didn't collect. But I had that 90s era that fortunately did go through the late 90s. So I got in on some of those cooler sets and then back into it in the last few years.
Very cool. Yeah. So, there are a few kind of major areas that you collect. But how would you describe yourself as kind of a collector overall and kind of what you look for?
Um, I'd say. I mean, when I was a kid, it was just like buy rookie cards and really I kind of wanted base rookie cards. Like I remember buying a box of 97 Finest or probably someone buying a box of 97 Finest for me. And I think I got like a hot box because you were supposed to get a refractor in every 12 packs. So like I think two per box. And I got like 15 refractors in the box, which was amazing. Got two Keith Van Horn refractors. That'll come back up. But I remember being disappointed because I'm like, why am I getting this refractor of Scottie Pippen when I need a base Tim Duncan rookie card? So it's funny, I had that like baseball sort of mindset from the 90s of like the base set is what matters and these parallels are newfangled. Um, so anyway, um, so yeah, I would say maybe it starts with me being a Bulls fan, and then I always like even I remember being around when eBay first was a thing with basketball cards, and even back then, some of my in the end best purchases were vintage rookie cards. I even then I thought it was cool to be like buy a Dr. J rookie card or something. So I always had that interest in vintage Hall of Fame rookies. And then I've always thought autographs were cool. In '96, when Skybox Autographics was first came out, and there were all these autographs available in packs, I thought that was the most amazing thing. Let me show off my favorite one that I have, and you'll probably appreciate this. Tony Kukoc Autographics. Didn't get that was something I got since getting back into the hobby, but so Hall of Famers, autographs of Hall of Famers, and then 90s stuff. That's kind of where my passion mostly centers around.
Uh, who are kind of your favorite Hall of Famers? Like maybe who are your favorite guys of all
Well,
time?
I mean, MJ is obviously my dude. So I always thought the star cards were awesome and kind of like mysterious. So these are 86 star. It's like the subset that they had of 10 cards of Michael Jordan. They all have some kind of little subset on the bottom. So I bought those a while ago. I think I bought those maybe when I was a kid, or at least one of them. Um, and got them graded recently. My dream card was always the 84 star. Even as a kid, I was like, well, why would a third year Michael Jordan card be his rookie card when there are cards from his rookie year? So it's always made sense to me that star is his real rookie card. But I don't have the 84 star, and now with how it's being pumped, it's out of reach for me. But still, that's kind of my grail card, I would say. So probably started with MJ, and then recent since I got back into the hobby, I remember as a kid the 96 finest set I always thought was cool. It had this weird um structure where there's like bronze, silver, gold. So no, in a way it's the first gold refractor, but it's also not a parallel of another card. I mean, anyway, it's more like select that it's like concourse and premiere and courtside or whatever. It's more like that structure. But anyway, I always thought that set was cool. So when I got back into it, I thought about trying to just collect the base set of it. But then as I was buying it, I was like, well, the refractors of these common players cost like $1. So why don't I just go for the refractors? Which in the end, when it gets to the Kobe refractors and stuff, that's going to cost me way more than the base. But anyway, so let me show you a couple of those. Um, so the bronzes look like this. Here's Iverson's
That's
rookie
nice.
refractor. Yeah, cool cards.
Cool.
You'll appreciate Nash. Here's him. All right, let me find oh, I gotta show off the MJ here. This is the MJ bronze refractor. And I love that this one's raw. Like I think about cracking those other ones out of there because I have all of these in like a big binder that can hold top loaders, and it's just so much more fun to look at it that way for me. And it brings back the nostalgia of childhood of how I would just stick all my cards in the binder and probably ruin all of them. But um, I do like the binder thing. Here's my Jordan silver refractor. So got the kind of mosaic sort of pattern to it. I don't know if you can see it in the light.
I
And these
can
are
almost,
probably
yeah.
they're not my favorite, if I'm honest, the silvers. Here's Ray Allen's silver refractor. But that's kind of the mid tier. And then this one I busted out for you, the old Mitch Richmond gold refractor. The golds are my favorite. They've got that what do you call that? Atomic refractor thing. Um, Strangely, my favorite one of these that I have is the my Stephon Marbury. I actually think it possibly would be a 10 if I were to get it graded. It's just kind of perfect. Um, so anyway, I'm probably 200 of the roughly 300 refractors in that set I have. Um, but in terms of the value, I probably have like 10% of the 100% because there are two Kobe's and one of them is the gold that's insane and the Jordan gold is insane. So um, I've got a lot of the cards, but I've got a long way to go.
Yeah. So you're doing you're open to gold, silver, or bronze refractors. Is that
Oh, I'm
uh
trying to get all of them. So the set is basically like the first 100 are bronze, and then there's like 20 silver and 10 gold, and then the second series again, 100 bronze, something like that. It adds up to, I think there's 290 cards in the set. So it's not like the gold Mitch Richmond I showed you. There's not a bronze of that card. There's just the gold. So that's what makes it different than a modern day gold. It's not a parallel of a base thing. It's like there's like a base gold, and then there's the refractor version of the base gold. Does that make sense?
it does. No, that clarified it. And yeah, I mean how it is seems like kind of a unique set in that regard, how it's structured. Are there other sets like that in
Yeah.
the 90s that are similar?
I mean, Finest for a few years did that. So 97 Finest is like that too, and is even more complicated because they've got an embossed version of it. And um, so yeah, there's like the three layers, and then there's the embossed on top of that, and then the refractors on top of the regular and refractors on the bo embossed. But then after that, like in 99, the refractors are just basically like normal, and then there's the no protector refractors they call it. So they had they're refractoring on the back, those ones, and they don't have the little film that Finest had.
Okay.
Are there other sets like that? I can't think of. I guess Flare, yeah, Flare Showcase had that different rows and stuff. So there's that. Gold label is super confusing. I actually don't really understand gold label, but it has all kinds of layers to it like that. Those are ones that are off the top of my head from the 90s that kind of have that style to them.
Okay, and this, I mean, the you got me onto to Finest about a year or two ago. We discussed Kobe Bryant's rookie cards, and I mean, I really don't know them at all, and I was kind of just you're asking my aesthetic assessment, and I found the Finest to be just incredible. That was my
Yeah.
favorite. So I
I
mean, you just love that set, I guess, the aesthetics of
Yeah,
it.
I do. It's got this weird like everything kind of looks like an insert because they all have these like um they look like subset sets. Like this one says airs and there's ones that say sterling and all kinds of things. And I don't know, it's also just when I was a kid, I think that was maybe the first set of Finest that I bought much of. And so and Finest at that point, that was the year Topps Chrome came in, so it ended up superseding it. But to me as a kid, Finest was always like the top thing out there. So I think that maybe, that wasn't the first year of Finest, but it was the first year that really like that I had access to maybe.
Mhm.
Um, and
Well,
then just that and that draft class, so all those things combined, the Bulls won that year. So there's all kinds of reasons that year of finest speaks to me. And in general, that year of card, like that 2 years is for me, that's the epoch of basketball cards is 96, 97, and 97, 98. Like those have to me the coolest cards of all time.
great. Yeah. And also, I mean, I would think too that year with them winning the title, not only that, but that was Jordan's first year returning, right? So
That
probably
was
any.
his second year back. 95, 96 was the 72 win year, and then that
Uh,
was his uh, second year.
okay.
But
Okay.
for whatever reason, I didn't buy any finest in 95, 96. I remember trading this will be personal to you. I remember trading some Jason Williams cards for the Kevin Garnett finest rookie card from 95, 96. But that's about the only 95, 96 finest card I had growing up.
Okay. Good one. Wow. Okay. But wait, he wasn't in the
I
league?
mean, later. So this
Oh,
was
later.
in,
Okay.
this was like when I was in high school. I remember I had this friend who uh, uh, seemed to like Jason Williams and kind of those kind of guys, and so I remember probably taking advantage of him in the cards I traded him for that finest KG. But yeah, it wasn't the year finest or the
Okay.
KG came out.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a collector base there. I mean, probably one of the players, Jason Williams, with the most strongest collector base or value of cards for how actually good he was on the court, kind of
Right.
ratio, right?
I
Um,
mean, I loved watching him. He was amazing to watch.
totally. Yeah, I mean, he's like pure nostalgia. He was unreal.
Yeah.
Of course, for me as
So
a kid. Yeah,
you want me to go into my Hall of Famers real quick that I
please,
got
please.
excited about? So, I like this one. This guy, 1957, Earl Lloyd. He was the first African American player to play in the NBA. So I think that's really cool. It's kind of the Jackie Robinson of the NBA. Um, and so I've got some of that 57 set. Here's the Bob Pettit. Um, my favorite vintage set is 61 Fleer, which I don't think is an unusual opinion, but here's my Elgin Baylor rookie card. That's the best one I have of that set. I would love to get the Wilt and the Oscar in the West, but I don't have those at this point. Um, and you can see, like, as a kid, my taste is the same as today. Like, I don't care about the condition of the card, so I end up with a bunch of ones and twos and stuff. But there's my Kareem. This one's just iconic looking, the Pete Maravich.
Oh,
Um, and then maybe my favorite of all these vintage cards is I like the normal size of this, and then just something about that picture with the 70s bright colors. Love the Dr. J.
when
Um,
when did you decide to go kind of for Hall of Famers and the older players?
I mean, even like I said, when I started buying eBay cards off of eBay, it was largely like, who are these legends that I can buy their rookie cards of? So I think even back then, I thought I really like the legends of basketball, and I like the look of these cards that feel so old to me, especially probably as a, whatever, 13-year-old, the idea of cards from the 70s seemed so ancient. Now it doesn't, as I'm older, that doesn't seem quite so long ago anymore. But when I was a kid, that was like, oh, I'm getting a historical artifact here. Um,
I
and
find
so
that,
I don't,
yeah, I find that kind of amazing. I mean, I don't, not many kids kind of think that way or something at that, you
yeah,
know.
probably something was wrong with me, but I always thought it was cool. Um, And then I always liked the star cards. So here's the best star rookie card I have is Hakeem. Um, and I'm a big Hakeem guy, as you'll see in some of my 90s cards. I think he was amazing. So um, anyway, yeah, I don't know. I remember when I was what year would have that been? 96. I think 96 formed me in a lot of ways in the hobby for some reason, but that was the 50th anniversary of the NBA. So I remember buying the book, and then I remember um, then thinking like, can I get the rookie cards of all these guys? And to this day, I like when I got back into it, I made a little, Excel file that has the list of the 50 players, and I have a column for do I have their rookie card? Do I have their autograph? And so, and then when this top 75 thing came out a few years ago, then I was like, well, that adds to my thing. So I like Hall of Famers too, but the priority is the top 50/75 players.
Okay. Okay. So is there much divergence between those two lists?
No, the list, I mean, it's just they added 25 players, but they didn't take
Yeah.
anyone off. Like I thought Dolph Shays or something might get kicked off, but no, they kept all the original 50.
Okay. Okay. Um, uh, Another subset of cards I believe you collect is amazing cards of, let's call them cheaper players.
Mhm.
At this, one of my favorite stories I like to tell is about one of your cards. I think you'll show it, so we'll see. If you don't, I'll tell the story.
Totally going to, yeah. I know what
Yeah.
you're talking about. Yeah, so being a person who thinks the 90s cards are the best era of basketball cards, particularly the late 90s. Um, but I don't have the funds or the willingness to spend the Michael Jordan kind of money on a jambalaya or the essential credentials or a PMG. So I like to look for lower entry points into some of these amazing sets so that I can kind of have a example of what the card looks and feels like. And then if I did someday, if I decided to consolidate, which I don't really do much of, but if I did, I would know I like the jambalaya better than I like the um, Ultra Stars Gold or something. Like I can have an opinion like that. So let's go through some of my cheaper entry points to 90s sets. This one, the hot numbers is well known and not super rare, but Hakeem, I mean, I probably got this thing for 20, $30. And these things grade really well. So if you ever find a raw one, that's a good card to buy raw because I think like 50% of them grade gem mint. Um, Here's a big man on court, Scottie Pippen. So when I can get the crossover between 90s Bulls players and these sets that I want, that's kind of the best for me. And that's never with Michael Jordan, unfortunately. This is probably the rarest one of the rarest inserts of the 90s. It's the Ultra Stars Gold. I think there's this guy on Instagram that I follow called Card Channel is his handle. And he does these like print run estimates. And I think that one there's like they think less than 80 of them or something. So I got the Sean Kemp there. And I something about those old Sonics jerseys and I love Gary Payton or Sean Kemp cards from that era, even though I disliked them in 95 when the Bulls or 96 when the Bulls beat them in the finals, but there there's a lot of nostalgia for those teams and how
I
they got
understand that. Yeah.
stolen to Oklahoma City. Um, so that's a great card. This is the first I bought this more recently. This is a Glen Rice what do you call these things? NBA game jerseys, upper deck. This was the first year there were ever game used patches and cards, and I'm not usually a patch guy, but those cards are like they were one in 2,500 packs, and it's kind of historic in the hobby. And I like the look of them. They've got a cool look to them. I would love to have the Jordan patch auto one. That's never going to happen, but um, anyway, so that's a really cool set from the 90s. This is the base version of what I'm about to show you. So this is my boy Keith Van Horn, his base EX 2001. And then I recently got his essential credentials. Oh man, is this now or future? I can't remember now.
Now.
Now, yeah. So numbered out of 74. I love this set. It's the first year they did it this way, but it's got this mirrored numbering thing where everyone, based on whatever number you are in the set. So like I think Grant Hill's number one, so he has a one of one in the now, and then a out of 80 in the future. And so they all based on the number they go back and forth like that. And they're just beautiful cards. There's these ones that like my Keith Van Horn has this yellow green thing going on, and then the other ones are pink and red. They're just really bold and striking looking. And then the card you were referring to is probably my favorite of all these. This is my Keith Van Horn Jambalaya. These are also like maybe 120 of these were printed. Um, Such a cool card. It's got this lenticular background that it just gives it this like infinite depth when you look at it. Um, and yeah, they're just super cool. I love it.
Yeah, the I mean, when you sent us a video of that, I got it finally. Why people love that card, and the HUD numbers too. I think kind of has that effect.
Yeah, it does. It's I like how this one, like the player himself is not lenticular, but then the background is. On the hot numbers, everything is lenticular, so it's sort of hard to see anything well because it's all that kind of movement sort of look to it. So for me, the like style of this one is perfect. That there's the player and it says Jambalaya, but then the background has this crazy like depth that moves as you shift it. Oh, and so for Keith Van Horn, a couple reasons why I like him. First, he's like super cheap, and he's in all like a lot of these late 90s awesome sets because he was the number two pick in the 97 draft. He started out with a bang. I think he averaged 20 his first couple years. Um, and then I grew up after we moved from Illinois, we went to Idaho, and then he played in college in Utah. So that's kind of like it was very much a regional interest. Um, and then that story I told you about getting that hot box of finest. I got two of his rookie refractors, and I remember going to a card shop and selling one of them for, in my memory at least, it was like $70, which back then that was like an unimaginable amount of money for little me. So for all those reasons, mostly because he's cheap, but also for those connections when I was a kid, I like picking up Keith Van Horn cards to try to have examples of some of these awesome 97 and 98 sets.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, that's for a long time when in the boom, people were talking about buy the card, not the grade. But in your case, I mean, you do have a connection with Keith Van Horn, but it's a bit of buy the card, not the player. Is
Yeah,
like
yeah. I
the
was
the
thinking about
twist
that
on that.
last night when I was thinking about this. That's kind of my mantra. I always
Yeah,
buy the.
yeah.
I don't know
Um,
that I wouldn't suggest that for investing advice, but for collecting advice, I think it's actually pretty good. You can get some really cool cards that there's no way you can get otherwise.
Yeah, it's funny. You've over time. It's probably funny for you to watch me. Like I was so into grading. Now I'm not. Now I like binders. Now, and now I'm even looking in your era more like 90s and early 2000s stuff. So,
Love it.
the cards really are so cool. Yeah, I even started looking recently for a Reggie Theus star card. He's got a few, and they're super
Oh,
cheap. So yeah, I
that's
kind of like
awesome.
to get a few of those, just to put in the binder.
Is
So
that his rookie card? When did Reggie Theus start?
he actually has one with the it's the 81 tops, the one with the bird and magic and Dr.
Okay.
J card. So he's on one of those.
Okay.
That's I think that's
Nice.
technically his rookie. And then
Nice.
he was with Kansas City until 84. He moved with the Kings in 85. But um, yeah.
You've bought a few like 90s Sabonis cards recently, haven't you?
Yeah, I took a leap and got a Legacy Collection Flair Showcase Legacy Collection of
Nice.
97 row one. So
Nice.
kind of dipping my waters in. I do have it here. So slowly,
You like
slowly.
it?
Yeah,
What do you
I
think of
do.
it?
Yeah, I like it. Yeah. Uh, so I don't know. It's really fun to explore this, being kind of new to it.
Right.
And not, I've been more focused on modern and stuff. So, it's a really fun place to explore. If you're kind of looking for a new, you're kind of sick of modern or something, or you just want to look around,
Right.
and going for less expensive guys can, won't break your budget as much. So,
Yeah. Unfortunately,
uh,
with the Kings, there's probably not a lot of players in the big insert sets, though. Until I suppose Jason Williams probably in like the early aughts maybe was in some of them, but
yeah, yeah, it takes till like '02, getting like Weber and Peja, and Bibby kind of, yeah, Mitch Richmond is kind of the only guy in the late '90s. And
even then I can't. He wasn't in a jambalaya or
he
I don't
wasn't.
know. Was he even in like Scoring Kings or something? I don't know. I
I
don't think he was.
Yeah, he just never did it for me. I liked him at the time, but I don't know. So I've never really looked around, but so I don't know. Uh,
Yeah. All right.
yeah. Well, it's really really cool cards for sure. And I don't know. Do you have any kind of what's your strategy, I guess, or your where you are in the hobby? I mean, I think you're going to continue with the finest kind of, obviously that's always on your radar, right?
Mhm.
Anything else kind of you're thinking about
Um,
these days?
well, I mean, we're going to talk about my way of, when because I have like a very set and limited budget that I'm willing to spend on cards. So when I don't have, money to buy my big old Keith Van Horn cards, I've liked getting into through the mail autographs. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit. And that's the way I can buy like a $1 card from 1971 and send it off to some old guy. And uh, I don't know, I'll show you. I just think it's this like cool way of connecting with basketball history, but also kind of like reclaiming a card. Like I can have this, what would be kind of a trashy base card from the 70s that's all beat up, and then you get a guy who's willing to sign it and inscribe it, and all of a sudden, at least to me, I know you're not a big autograph guy, but to me, it's like really cool. And um, those 70s cards have such like personality at baseline, and then like when you sign them, I don't know. I'll show you here in a little bit, but I think they can look really epic with autographs on them.
They do. I mean, you were kind enough to I can't remember the year now, but that it's a Topps Rick Adelman card,
Oh
uh,
yeah,
and actually didn't know, but he played for the Kings for a year or two. And you sent that off and got it signed for me, and it's an awesome card. It's like, it feels 70s,
right.
and having the signature on it totally makes it amazing.
Yeah,
So I reclaiming it, I like that. I like that idea.
yeah. So do you want to transition to
Yeah,
talking about
I
that?
mean, part of the reason I wanted to have Nathaniel on was because he does this so much. He does autographs through the mail. So, yeah, please like share some of your funnest stories, I guess, from that, and then maybe give the audience a bit of a 101 primer on the whole process.
Okay, maybe I'll start with the primer part to get the less interesting part out of the way. But so there's this, I don't know how I heard about it, but there's a website called sportscollectors.net, and it looks like it's straight from like 1994 or something. It's a really basic, not beautiful website. But I think for like I think the fee is $10 a year, so it's going to break the bank. It's a Keith Van Horn card I wasn't able to buy because of that, but um, for $10 a year, you get the subscription and you can put in the player's name and then it'll tell you um, whether or not people have tried to send cards to them to get autographed. And then it tells you like the success rate and when they were most recently signed. So you can tell right away, like you put in Michael Jordan, you can see 200 people have tried and zero have succeeded. So you're not going to bother sending your Michael Jordan card. But then, someone like Mike Bibby, he signs all the time, and so you go on there, put in his name, and you can see his address and um, all the information you need for the thing. And then there's YouTube tutorials about how to do it, but I'll just in brief, like you put a self-addressed stamped envelope in there. You do some way to kind of protect the card, but you have to leave it open because these people just want to be able to sign the card and send it back. They don't want to mess with the top loader, and if they do, they might jack up your card. So Oh, I didn't bring any, but I've got these like cardboard things that fold out, and so you can put the card in there and have these little like what do you call them? Like picture corner, like little plastic things to secure the card in there. And then they just flip it open and consign it and send it back to you. And then I always write them a little note saying like, I don't know, I basically just Wikipedia them and be like, whoa, you like I've got this, let me show you this guy. Um, this is a 57 Frank Selvey. And then like when I was Wikipediaing him, he scored 100 points in a game in college. And so, I could write like, that's insane that you did that. And sometimes they write back, which is also really cool there. I don't know why, but it's like I'm pen pals with this old guy who was a basketball star from a whole different era. Like,
Great.
I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
kind of cool. Um, so that's basically the process. You just uh, look up the addresses through that website. There's probably ways to do some of it for free, but if you're interested in doing this in any kind of, like like not just a few of them, then I would definitely recommend signing up for a website like this just because it makes it so much easier. And then you can track, like I put who I sent it off to on what date and when I got it back in there, and then other people can tell how fast you get it. But I also have records of what I send out too, so I can be like, hey, what happened to my card I sent to Don Staley or whatever. So I don't know. It's a
But
very helpful website.
yeah, that sounds it does sound pretty straightforward. I mean, what's your rough success rate, would you say?
Oh, it's really high because the people that I send them to are people who I can tell on there send them back. So I don't know. I would guess
Hmm.
80, 90%, something like that. And even some of the ones that I don't have back, I think I probably will because some people just like Bill Bradley, for example, Hall of Famer for the Knicks, he just sends them like twice a year. So he collects them apparently, and then all of a sudden you'll see everyone gets their cards back. But you're not going to get it back promptly from a guy like that because he just apparently takes a day once or twice a year and does it. So there are ones that like Lenny Wilkins to me, who's it's awesome because he's a top 50, top 75 guy. He's the goat of through the mail autographs. He'll like send them back immediately and he'll sign everything you send. And so I don't even know, I've got like 6 autographs of him. I'm about to send a couple more off. I bought this atomic refractor of his. I thought, let's see what that looks like autographed. And he'll inscribe all this stuff on it. And his resume is so amazing that the inscription looks amazing because he's like 3-time Hall of Famer because he made it as a player, as a coach, as a dream team person. And so I don't know. To me, he's needs to like a fourth Hall of Fame thing for his through the mail autographing because it's incredible. So you want me to show off some of my
Please, yeah.
prizes here?
Yeah.
So let's see. I just think it's so cool to get these like 57 ones autographed. The fact that these guys are still living and still willing to sign, and like Cliff Hagan here is a Hall of Famer, and he'll sign through the mail. That's amazing. Um, here's some 61 Fleer. So to me, like I said, these are my favorite. This koozie, it's pretty awesome. He signed the crap out of the whole card. He wrote my name on it, and his signature is like the size of half the card. And then of course here's the GOAT, Lenny Wilkens. So uh, those are amazing. My favorite, the one I've been doing a lot of recently is the 71 tops. So after the couple years of tall boy cards, this was the first like 70s normal sized card. And I just think they're such cool look with that script and the
Hmm.
colors. And so I've been doing a bunch of these guys when I can. Um, so yeah, there's a few examples of those. And these guys will I don't know. These older players are more willing to like spend some time on their autographs too. So like this guy, this is from 72 Tops. Like he just signed it along the line of the team name, and it just looks awesome the way he did it.
It's
I feel
perfect.
like some of these guys have a great sense for aesthetics. Um, the nice thing about these tall boy cards is lots of room to write stuff. So like this Tom Sanders, he like wrote all his Hall of Fame and championship stuff. Um, I don't know. Let's see. Oh, that wasn't Tom Sanders. This is one I was trying to show you. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Uh, and some of them, one thing I forgot to say. So like Dave Bing here, he charges, I think, $10 to sign cards and toward, whatever his um what do you call it? Charity that he participates with. So the website will tell you that. So you know, like, um, you're not going to send that card off and get nothing for it, because you know what's required. So that's really helpful too. And then there's guys that you learn, like Oscar Robertson charges like 200, $250 per card or something. So you also know, well, I'm not going to bother with that. So
Right.
that's helpful. Let me show you a few more. I thought this one was amazing that Larry Nance signed his star rookie card in this like silver pin.
Ooh,
So it just looks amazing.
it does.
Um, and I haven't seen any other ones that he did that. I think I got so lucky on that card. I think it's amazing. I like, speaking of reclaiming cards, like these early 90s cards, they made a trillion of them, but like you throw a Robert Parrish autograph on this card and it looks great. Like the white is perfect for it. It's just got a nice style to it. This is one of my favorites for a while. Dirk was autographing cards. He had like I think it was a $20 fee for his charity, which I was happy to give. And he's subsequently stopped because I think he was overwhelmed, but I'm really happy to have that one. I brought this one here for your sake. This is my Bibby rookie I got autographed. I know he's in the wrong jersey, but still. Um, I also, some of the bigger players in the WNBA will sign cards because I don't know, I don't think they get the demand of the NBA players. So, well, she's retired now, but Katie Smith, so I was able to make this into a autographed patch card, which is a rare thing in WNBA cards. And then Chelsea Gray, she's kind of the Chris Paul of the WNBA. So the fact that she's still playing and winning championships, but will sign a card for me is pretty awesome. Um, so yeah, that's some example. I've got a whole binder with a ton of them.
Like,
And largely the ones that I get, I really like the old ones, like those 70s cards. I just love how they look with an autograph on them. So that's kind of the focus of it. But I've got through all the eras really.
yeah, I mean, amazing. Yeah, especially before, I guess, obviously modern era with autographs on cards already, and it's
Right.
it's a different ball game, I think, with the autos. And I do, I don't, not getting autos is kind of one of my ways to restrict what I'm doing. Just
Right.
kind of set limits on what I'm doing. But as a kid, I did this a lot. I have, probably 50 or 80 football and baseball cards autographed. You would send it off to the stadium, and who knows if the guy actually signed it or not. But
Right.
half the time it would come back. Sometimes it wouldn't. But
Right.
when you kind of do it, I mean, what I like about autographs is when it's yours, or like you did it, then I do like them actually quite a bit.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't. Maybe there are listeners out there who are not kind of aware of this, and it just seems like a great way to kind of engage with the hobby in an inexpensive way that it's also kind of fun to me. It strikes me, we send off orders for grading, for instance, and all the anticipation, but then this is also kind of another way to kind of have that kind of built-in anticipation, or
Yeah.
unknown chase kind of element to what we're doing.
Yeah, totally. I find when I get one of those back, and let's say I get a card that I bought from eBay in the same day, I'm much more excited to open the through the mail one because I don't know what I have or how the person signed it or if they signed it or if they wrote the letter or a letter back to me. So I don't know. There's something nice about the mystery of it, of like when you buy a card, you know exactly what you're getting, but when you send one of these off, you don't know what you're gonna get. I
There's
wouldn't make the argument that it's a one of one, but in a way, it's a one of one. Like no one has a card signed just the way that these are versus like a sticker auto. They're all exactly the same. Um, so I don't know. It's a cool like, and I just like that it's something that I can do. It doesn't cost much, but to me, it's like a real part of my collection. Like when I buy $1, Grant Williams silver prisms or something, that costs the same as this, but I'm just going to want to sell that in the future versus like these, unless I get a duplicate of the player, I never want to sell them. They're fun to all have together and look at.
that's incredible. I think any other kind of advice for people out there on this along these lines, or
Well, I was thinking in terms of your podcast for the global card collector, I'm not sure how this works when you're in other countries. I know I've heard Will talk about when he's talked to people in New Zealand and stuff, it sounds like through the mail autographs happen there. So I'm guessing this is a thing, I'm guessing maybe cricket players in India, like I'm guessing these kind of things are possible throughout the world, but I can only speak to how it works in the US. And probably there would be a way to do it if you're in another country to for these US players, but you would have to figure out the self-addressed envelope part of it. Um, but yeah, for people here, I mean, and this is even much more of a thing in baseball. So if you're a baseball card collector, I mean, it's a whole yeah, it's a whole industry of like I know I'm a Cubs fan, so Ryan Sandberg signs autographs through the mail. There's a fee that goes along with it, but um, I think you can get a lot of vintage baseball cards signed this way. Probably football, but who cares about football cards? Um, Sorry, I've been all of these podcasts that I listen to about sports cards, for some reason, like football is what everyone talks about right now, and I'm over it.
Yeah, I'm also. I think global. We have had actually some football cards on here. Really thoughtful guy, Justin, and then someone else that we have an episode coming out soon with those guys. They do vintage football. Really
Right,
interesting. Those guys, but yeah, I'm kind of tired of hearing about Prism 101s and all this super
right.
fractors and blah blah blah.
Yeah,
It just seems very ubiquitous on the airwaves at the moment. But
yeah.
you know, to each
Certainly
their
not,
own. Yeah.
yeah, certainly not a global card, but yeah, I know people like it. It just seems like an inordinate amount of discussion about football cards lately from my perspective.
Yeah, and I guess I don't we shouldn't turn this into a bagging on football, but I mean I just I don't see people collecting much besides quarterbacks, and even then it seems like a lot of prospecting on quarterbacks. So I don't see that many modern collectors of football, American football cards.
Yeah, it's
But
interesting. I have my main theory, other than like football cards are, I mean, football players are kind of disposable given the nature of the sport and how they destroy their bodies and are out of the game so quickly.
right.
Um, my other main theory is that you just don't really see a football player. Like you know exactly what Michael Jordan looks like because he's basically naked on the court running around versus a football players wearing armor. So, I mean, I know what Patrick Mahomes looks like, but when he's playing, he could be anyone. So I don't know that. And to me, I just love basketball, and there's something very star driven about basketball that is not the same in baseball or football. So I think that's part of why, to me, basketball cards make a lot of sense because Michael Jordan did have the impact that he did versus, when you're Shohei Ohtani, he's amazing and it's incredible what he's been doing, but he got hurt in the World Series and they still won because baseball is a collection of a lot of players and a lot of moving pieces, which is cool about it. Like team sports are awesome, but but the cards are not team cards, they're individual cards. So I don't know. To me, a individual basketball player is much more impactful than an individual athlete on in most any other sport.
Yeah, I mean, to me too, football, American football and baseball have it not totally, but there isn't a ton of teamwork going on. I mean, you could argue they're individual players like all together doing their specific jobs. Obviously when they're batting in baseball, it's all alone. But whereas basketball and soccer, it's more like you really got to know your
Yeah,
teammates and vibe each
yeah,
other. And I think, of course, internationally, the problem with American football is just that soccer occupies that space of just, kind of more fanatical, like just attachment to your place, and that's why you root for the Kansas City Chiefs or you know Barcelona
right,
or something, right? So,
right.
um, yeah,
I definitely agree with you on baseball is just like a individual sport dressed up as a team sport. Like everyone is doing their own thing, and it's amazing. But it is a strangely like you're all alone fielding, you're all alone batting, you're all alone pitching. So like some of I guess when a shortstop gets you know, picks up the grounder and throws it to first base. But even then, like the minute he releases it, I don't know, there's just not the same sort of orchestra of a game that basketball or soccer has for sure. I think football definitely has that, but American football, I mean.
Yeah,
Um, but baseball is a strangely individual sport with a bunch of people playing.
agreed. Well, anything else you want to leave us in parting?
Well, let me just show you, since we've got a little bit of time, let me show you
You.
some of my, usually I'm not a 90s is my main thing, but I've gotten into recently some like 2000s era Bulls cards. So, um, I always loved in that era with Derrick Rose and stuff. Luol Deng was always my favorite for some reason. I just thought he was incredible. So let me show you some of those. This one is my favorite. This is his XRC. So the with Finest, they did the thing that I think Select does in football now, where you'd get a redemption card from, like this is 2003 Finest, but he was a rookie in 2004, so it must have been like redemption for the number 4 draft pick or whatever. So I got that recently. This is the gold refractor numbered to 25. I think that card's amazing. Here's a couple of his, here's a Bowman Chrome and a Topps Chrome Gold. Um, and he's just, he's reasonably cheap to get, and I think he's incredible. And he's now like leading the way with the South Sudanese Olympic team, which had this kind of Cinderella story in the last Olympics. So I think that's really cool. He's always just seemed like an amazing guy to me. Um, Joakim Noah was amazing. Defensive Player of the Year, third in MVP voting one year. Here's his rookie Bowman Chrome. And then I've recently got into UD Black. It's kind of noirish in a way. So this is his rookie autograph from 2007, numbered to 15, and I just think it's an amazing looking card. Um, so those are some of them. I look at Kirk Heinrich. I think I have a Kirk Heinrich refractor, but it didn't feel gold refractor, but it didn't feel like he was worth pulling out for this discussion. But strangely, the only guy from that era that I never really look at his cards is Derrick Rose, but it's just because they're so much more expensive, and I don't, for some reason, I don't have more of an attachment to him than I do to these other dudes. So I just go for the Noah and Dang instead of the Derrick Rose. But I probably need to get a Derrick Rose at some point.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he has quite a. I'm surprised. Like even Turkey, like I've had a few people be like, "Do you have any Derrick Rose cards?" That kind of thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, definitely a
Feels like
strong.
he's a little bit like the Penny Hardaway of the aughts. Like Penny Hardaway was just this cultural icon and had the commercials and everyone loves him even though injuries and whatever he didn't really live up to the early hopes for him. I feel like Derrick Rose is the same way, sadly, that he was incredible. He won that MVP, which in retrospect, let's not talk about whether he should have or not as a Bulls fan, but um, anyway, he sort of flamed out, but he's got that. He was so exciting early on, and for anyone who wasn't a LeBron fan, he was kind of like the hope to defeat those Cleveland teams for a few years. Um, didn't happen, obviously, but anyway.
Very good. Well, Nathaniel, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your collection. I know I enjoyed it, and yeah, I can't give anyone where to follow you, which is just fine. He's kind of like the silent majority out there of people who are not on
Send
Instagram, and
send me a letter through the mail, or like
yeah,
why can't we do this like we did in the 90s?
yeah. I mean, you can get an autograph. The person can sign it too. So.
True. Uh, maybe I'll do Instagram at some point. I always think about it, but I don't love the process of photographing cards, and I don't love social media, so it's just never. I like looking at other people's stuff, but I've just never felt particularly compelled to do it.
I get it for sure. Uh, Very good. Well, thanks again, and have a great rest of your day.
All right, thanks, John. You too.
Thanks, Nathaniel.